Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut and sew a stylish bustier blouse. So if you haven't yet seen the drafting tutorial, please go down to my YouTube channel, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button. Let's dive right into today's video.
So here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to use it to cut out my fabric. I added 1/2 inch on the neckline and on the lower part. At the back, I went ahead to iron stay to add stability to my fabric. So I'm using a Duchess. You can go ahead to use a crepe or any fabric of your choice. So for the back pattern also, I went ahead to also add my sewing allowance at the neckline and at the lower part. So next we'll be working on the lower part of the pattern, and I'm going to start first with the back pattern. So here's my back pattern. I added 1/2 inch on top and 1/2 inch at the lower part. So when I was actually drafting this pattern, I forgot to go up at the waistline. That is, if you notice at the front pattern of this dress, we measured 5 inches from the waistline by the side. So I went ahead to also reduce that when I was sewing. So here is my pattern for the lower part. What I'm going to do is to place, and I will measure about 5 inches from my waist and I'll connect it. So I'll use this pattern to reduce the lower part of my back pattern. To turn the fabric, you're going to use your lining to turn it. So I'm just going to show you an illustration of how I did that. You're going to reduce the length by the side. So after I'm done doing this, I'm going to also work on the front pattern. So for the front pattern, here is what I have. We have 2 pieces. One side is smaller and the other side is bigger. So while looking at my pattern, you notice I added more allowance at the lower part. So remember I said I'll be adding about 1/2 inch on 1 inch at the lower part. So now you're going to add 1/2 inch in front, add 1/2 inch at the lower part, add 1/2 inch at the side and at the upper part also. And you're going to go ahead to use the lining to turn this by stitching with 1/2 inch at the side, at the lower part and the other side of the material. So leave the upper part open, you go ahead to turn it with that part. So now here is what I have, and I'm going to place my lining on the right side of this fabric, and I'm going to go ahead to place, and you're going to go ahead to stitch by the side, at the lower side and by the other side also, and you're going to turn it up with that part. So I'll go ahead and I will notch it all the way around, and I'm going to turn it to the right side. So now after I'm done turning my pattern, this is what I have. This is the front part, and also this is the back part of my pattern. So if you notice, the front part I measured from 5 inches to the waistline by the side, and for the back pattern I forgot to do that. I will go ahead and readjust that later. So go ahead and place your pattern, and you're going to mark your dart intake because you're going to be sewing off your dart. So now after you're done marking your dart, you want to measure the length of your dart intake, because you don't want to go ahead and start remeasuring that on your pattern. So I'll go ahead and I will notch that point I made for my dart. So after I'm done doing that, I'm also going to repeat the same thing on the lining place and notch. This will save you the stress of marking out your dart again. So after this, I'm just going to go ahead to sew up my dart. But before I go ahead and sew up my dart for the front, I'll also place my pattern for the back, and I will be marking the dart points also for the back, and I'm going to also notch it. So I'll also go ahead to sew up my dart at that point. So here is my dress, and I've gone ahead to stitch up the dart, and also for the lining piece, you notice that I stitched up my lining separately. So now we are going to attach the lower part of this dress to the upper part. Go ahead and place this way. So while looking at the thumbnail, you notice that this flay or pattern started at the that line of the other side. So go ahead and place this way, and you're going to be stitching with half inch to join the upper part down to the lower part of your pattern. You can go ahead and pin it this way to ensure that it sits perfectly. So by the side, make sure you leave like half inch after placing the lower part, because you're going to be turning the rest of the dress with lining. So after I'm done joining, this is what I have.
So after I was done stitching, you notice at the waistline the part on top is a little bigger than what we have on the waistline. This is to enable me stitch it round. So I'm going to place my lining on it, and I'm going to be stitching with half inch. So while pinning, make sure that you tuck it in very well. So this is the reason why we are leaving half inch at the end. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but at the waistline of the lower part, that is the part that is like flay, make sure is a bit smaller than what you have at the waistline. You just be leaving little to turn it round. And also at the neckline, you'll be stitching it up with half inch.
So at the upper part also, I'm going to be stitching with half inch at the neckline, stitch with half inch at this part at the lower part, and stitch up with half inch.
So now I'm going to go ahead to turn the back pattern too, and you're going to flip it up. So you notice by the side I have like half inch or little to turn it up. So if your waistline is exactly with the one at the lower part, you can just take it in a little, like shape it more and then place it so that you're going to have half inch to turn it round. And when you're sewing, you're going to push it in. So with that remaining half inch at the side, you're going to be stitching the neckline, the zipper side and the other side, and also stitch the lower part. So after I'm done
So
stitching,
after this, I'll just go ahead and notch this all the way around, and after I'm done notching it, I'm going to be turning it to the right side of this dress. So I'm done stitching, and I'm just going to go ahead to turn it to the right side, and this is what I have on my dress. So next, I'm also going to go ahead to turn the back pattern. So after I'm done turning, this is what I have, and also for the back pattern, this is what I have also. And I'm going to go ahead to add zipper to this dress, and to add my zipper, I'm just going to mark out 1 inch for my zipper allowance. And after that, I'll just go ahead to attach zipper to the back of this dress. And also remember to mark this 1 inch on both sides of your back pattern where you'll be attaching zipper to. And you're also going to go ahead to turn one side of your shoulder with the other part. Go ahead and place one, and you're going to open the other side. So you're going to be stitching with half inch to join your shoulder for the front and the back. So after doing that, you're going to be cutting out the sleeve, and you're going to be joining your sleeve to your dress. So now here is my basic sleeve. We actually drafted this out in our video, so I placed my pattern to cut this out. And we are going to go ahead to cut the flip part of this sleeve. So now here is the silk that I have left in the house, so I'll be making use of it. Go ahead and fold your pattern into two. So after folding it, you're going to fold it again. So remember, when we are cutting out our sleeve, the wrist part of my dress, sorry, the sleeve is 7 inches plus half inch on both sides, making it 8 inches. So at this point, I'll be dividing that 8 inches by 4, because this is an into 4 flay, and I'll have 2 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark 2 inches at that point. After I'm done marking, you're going to decide the length of the flare that you want, and I'm just going to go ahead to measure about 8 inches. And next I'm just going to go ahead to cut this out, and I'll also be cutting out lining for this. So you can use your bias strip to also turn the lower parts together, or you can use your lining to turn it. So I'll just go ahead and I will cut this out. After I'm done cutting out, so this is what I have, I'll just go ahead to unpin it. So I'll go ahead and place this on another fabric, and I'll trace this out and also trace out for my lining. So you want to go ahead and attach this to your sleeve. So after I'm done attaching mine, I went ahead to join it with 1/2 inch on the shoulder. So here's my dress. I've gone ahead to also join the shoulder just like I said, and I'm going to be shaping my dress, and to shape my dress I'll pin it down. So after that, I'll go ahead to place my tip. I'll mark my bust, shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, and shoulder to waistline. So after I'm done marking that, I'll be inserting my body measurements at those points. So after measuring, remember that we added 1.5 inches for sewing allowance. By the time you're done stitching 1/2 inch for turn up, you're going to be left with 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead to mark that 1 inch at the bust, because we only added 1.5 inches allowance and we are done sewing with 1/2. So I'll also repeat the same process, mark the 1 inch for the waist on both sides of my waist and my under bust, and take it all the way down. But if you're not sure with your measurements that you actually took out 1/2 inch for turn up, just go ahead and impute your measurements. So after I'm done doing this, I'm going to measure my armhole circumference divided by 2, which is 16 divided by 2. I have 8, and I'll mark. Now I'm going to connect to the lower part. If you added 1/2 inch or 1 inch, you'll be marking that out at this point, and going down to the lower part of the sleeve, you're going to mark about 1/2 inch. So after I was done sewing, this is what I have, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch my button. So to stitch my button, I'll be marking the space for the button interval, and I'm using about 2 inches difference. So that's not a standard, it just depends on what you have. So I'll go ahead and sew the rest of my buttons, and I'll be showing you the final look of the dress. So after I'm done sewing, this is the final look of the dress. This is what I have. If you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and join us in our next video. Thanks.